As the lockdown begins to ease in most places in the world, living with coronavirus is now a reality. With no cure in sight, people have adapted to precautionary measures, what everyone calls the new normal. As of May 23rd, when this show was recorded, the Wuhan virus had infected over 5 million people around the world and killed more than 335,000. The genetic sequence of SARS-CoV-2, the coronavirus that causes COVID-19, was published on January 11th, 2020. It triggered an intense international race to find treatments and vaccines. However, until now, no drugs have been licensed for the treatment or prevention of COVID-19. Although more than 100 vaccines are under development, no vaccine has been approved for use. While experts believe that a safe, effective vaccine is still more than a year away, researchers are rushing to repurpose existing drugs and non-drug therapies. Many labs are also testing promising experimental drugs that were already in clinical trials. The search for a cure has become a global competition. New drugs, new diagnostics, antibody tests, patient and contact tracing technologies, disease surveillance and other early warning tools. All of these have given birth to a new medical arms race. Although numerous nations are involved, two countries are going head-to-head in this fight: the United States of America and the People's Republic of China, the country that has reported the most number of deaths and the one from which this pandemic originated.
We accelerate the final phases of vaccine trials. Operation Warp Speed will be simultaneously accelerating its manufacturing process. In other words, we're getting ready so that when we get the good word that we have the vaccine, we have the formula, we have what we need, we're ready to go, as opposed to taking years to gear up. We're gearing up. It's risky, it's expensive, but we'll be saving massive amounts of time. We'll be saving years if we do this properly, and that's what we're doing. So we're gearing up on the assumption that we'll have, in the near future, relatively near future, a vaccine.
With big money and global influence at stake, both countries are intent on gaining the upper hand. Scientists in other countries, including India, are also fighting against time to find a cure. But the novel coronavirus continues to outmaneuver the best minds in the world. India is among the largest manufacturers of generic drugs and vaccines in the world. Many firms are developing vaccines against the virus that causes COVID-19. If the world is to gain access to a vaccine for COVID-19, there's a good chance it will pass through India. Pune-based Serum Institute is the world's largest manufacturer of vaccines by volume. At this institute, scientists are busy developing and manufacturing over half a dozen different vaccine candidates for COVID-19.
We want to get a head start on the manufacturing so that when the clinical trials come out to be positive, and I'm told there's an 80% chance of that happening, This platform was used for the Ebola candidate earlier by them, and they're some of the smartest scientists in the world there. That's how we decided to start manufacturing in about a month from today. And so hopefully we'll build up a stock of a few million doses to give to our country and some other high-risk areas across the globe come October, November, when the trials hope to be concluded.
The Indian company has partnered with US biotech firm Codagenics and Austria's Themis to potentially manufacture 3 COVID-19 vaccine candidates that are still in development. But the big question is, how soon can they come up with a solution?
The most urgent invention in the world right now is a vaccine that prevents you from getting COVID-19. What vaccines do is they teach your immune system about the pathogen. This is the coronavirus, and this shape on its outside is called the spike protein. It grabs on to the cells in your body that have a particular receptor and get that cell to make billions of copies of this virus. Well, the idea of a vaccine is to give you an exposure to something that looks like this, so you're getting your body to make a lot of antibodies that can take these viruses and actually kill them. There's over 100 different efforts making many different types of coronavirus vaccines. So, how do you make a vaccine? Usually you're injecting at least part of the shape of the virus. Sometimes you do the whole virus, but it's attenuated so it doesn't multiply too much. Sometimes you take the virus and you kill it. You won't get sick because they're not duplicating. What's typically done is you just take either a piece of the virus or just the spike, that thing on the surface, and you put it on something else. So there's no risk at all of causing the disease.
The world is waiting for a vaccine to prevent COVID-19 and drugs to treat the infection. Without them, governments have to rely on containment measures to curb the spread, like travel bans, quarantines, and social distancing. Measures that are causing great economic damage. Countries around the world are easing lockdown measures because the economies will regain their vigor only when workers return to their offices, factories and shops. And this could result in a spike in infection rates. So it's no surprise that countries are trying to create a vaccine to protect the body against COVID-19 on a historically fast timeline. However, a COVID-19 vaccine is by no means guaranteed, and even if a vaccine is found, it would take time and a huge logistical feat to roll it out worldwide.
We've never tried to make a vaccine this quickly. We have 4 or 5 different approaches. We hope at least one of them will work, but we could very well find ourselves at the end of the year with a lot of disappointment. So people maybe need to take that into account before they start worrying too much about exactly who's going to have access. Maybe none of us will. I hope and pray that's not the case.
Vaccines represent the single greatest promise of biomedicine, disease prevention. So what are vaccines and how do they work? A vaccine, also called a shot or immunization, is a substance that teaches your body's immune system to recognize and defend against harmful viruses or bacteria. The practice of immunization dates back many centuries. It is believed that in 17th century China, Buddhist monks drank snake venom to build up immunity to snake bites. Edward Jenner invented a method to protect against smallpox in 1796. The English physician performed the world's first vaccination. Taking pus from a cowpox lesion on a milkmaid's hand, Jenner inoculated an 8-year-old boy. His assertion that the cowpox protects the human constitution from the infection of smallpox laid the foundation for modern vaccinology. Today, the widespread immunity due to vaccination is largely responsible for the worldwide eradication of smallpox and elimination of diseases such as polio, measles, and tetanus from much of the world. Vaccines given before you get infected are called preventive vaccines. These allow your body to set up defenses against diseases ahead of time. Preventive vaccines are widely used to prevent diseases like polio, chickenpox, measles, mumps, and influenza or flu. So the question is, when will we get to see a vaccine that can end the coronavirus pandemic? It is interesting to note that the smallpox vaccine, though developed in 1796, underwent multiple changes till the 19th century. From 1958 to 1977, the World Health Organization conducted a global vaccination campaign that eradicated smallpox, making it the only human disease to be eradicated. Can scientists achieve something like this for COVID-19 too? Or will it become like the HIV or human immunodeficiency virus, for which, despite best efforts, a vaccine has not been found yet? May 18th, 2020. Wall Street logged its best day in over a month as news from a vaccine trial stoked optimism. US biotechnology company Moderna announced promising early results from its first human safety tests. It was found that the level of antibodies in them were similar to those in blood samples of people who have recovered from coronavirus.
We can indeed, with this vaccine, induce an immune response in everybody that received the vaccine. And that immune response generates the kind of antibodies that one would hope to generate, antibodies that can neutralize the virus, and that we can get to levels of antibodies that are those seen in people who've been infected with SARS-CoV-2, or in fact, even exceed those levels. The second part of the news is that we've also disclosed that in a mouse model of SARS-CoV-2, the same level of vaccine that can induce this immune response can also protect that mouse from the virus replicating in the lungs.
All 8 participants were given 3 different doses of the vaccine, and Moderna said it saw a dose-dependent increase in immunogenicity, the ability to provoke an immune response in the body. The US company is looking to begin a phase 2 trial involving 600 participants in July, but it's not the only company in the race.
We would be able to stop the pandemic with an effective drug, even without a vaccine.
This is not going to be an expensive vaccine. It's going to be a single-dose vaccine. It's going to be made for global supply, and it's going to be made in many different locations. And that was always our plan.
Due to our experience with the chicken coronavirus, actually, when we found out that the new virus is also from the same family, all we needed to do is to adjust our system to the new sequences, to the new DNA sequences of the new coronavirus as they were published recently.
What we have done is we found a way to make a vaccine in a capsule that you can swallow, which will work not as good as that, but better than that. And the reason is it will go in and it will deliver double immunity. Normally you get one type of immunity with this, you'll get, it's called systemic. What we will get is immunity that is called mucosal, like the mucosa in your mouth. That is double immunity.
In the best case scenario, we can get the first permit for our coronavirus vaccine. I hope in late November or early December. I'm sure the first part of trials will be conducted on a limited group. After this test, the study will continue, and it will include groups of patients that should additionally be included.
Und ich kann Ihnen ankündigen, dass wir in Kürze auch
I can announce that we will soon have a first clinical study in Germany. I am also confident that over the course of the year, we will have more clinical studies in Germany, and we are talking about 2 RNA and 2 vector vaccines. The process is ongoing.
2 Vektorimpfstoffe, die entsprechenden Verfahren laufen.
We have started a clinical trial with the very old BCG TB vaccine to see if it can perhaps protect from COVID-19 infection or more even from the severity of its symptoms. And it's right that it's most likely the first such trial in Africa.
We have enough inventory of a drug called interferon alpha-2b to complete this first stage. The inventory is such that we will be able to share it with other countries.
A scientific gold rush is underway for the first COVID-19 vaccine. As coronavirus vaccine hurtled through development, health advocates warn that medical protectionism and vaccine nationalism could rise considerably if unchecked. Every country needs the same life-saving tools. Most governments appear to recognize the need for a global response to tackle this worldwide emergency, but the fact remains that each country wants to protect its own population first, and it's also a question of money and power. The war on COVID-19 is haunted by lessons from the fight against another virus. In the spring of 2009, the H1N1 swine flu virus emerged in the United States and Mexico and spread worldwide. Within weeks, the World Health Organization declared it a pandemic. By October 2019, vaccination programs were underway, but not in all countries. Wealthier governments effectively monopolized the global vaccine supply. The US, Australia, Brazil, France, Italy, New Zealand, Norway, Switzerland and Britain had access to vaccine, but were stockpiling it instead of sharing it with poorer nations. So it's not surprising that health advocates are concerned about richer countries monopolizing the global supply of COVID-19 vaccines, if and when it is developed. Hoarding will remain a serious risk. Lack of access to vital drugs and vaccines is a long-standing issue for the world's poor. When HIV drugs first came out more than 2 decades ago, the high-price antiretroviral therapy sparked an outcry. Millions died in Africa and other developing regions. Recently, French President Emmanuel Macron and German Chancellor Angela Merkel joined the World Health Organization in calling for fair distribution of vaccines. So who will get to the finish line first? As per the World Health Organization, 8 vaccine candidates in the world are already in the human trial phase, and 110 more are right now in preclinical stages. All eyes are on US-based company Moderna. With its early results, albeit from a small group of healthy volunteers, the US-based biotechnology firm may be at pole position. The US has also invested money in French pharmaceutical giant Sanofi, which has 2 COVID-19 vaccine projects underway. Recently, Sanofi CEO Paul Hudson sparked a row by saying the US government had the right to the largest pre-order because it's invested in taking the risk. His remark triggered international outrage. French Prime Minister Edouard Philippe responded by saying access for all was non-negotiable. Sanofi's chairman has now vowed equal access for everyone, saying the US will only have priority access to Sanofi vaccines produced within US borders, but not to those produced in France and other European countries.
My comments are really around what do we need to do to make sure we're in a similar position in Europe. It was never a choice. We need to get vaccines to everybody across the world, all parts of the world, doses for everybody. We're all going to have to play a huge part in that, because if we add all the manufacturers together, it still perhaps won't be enough. We must be at the top of our game. We must be ready.
The COVID-19 vaccine being produced by the Oxford University is among the top 8 candidates. However, Jadox 1 was found to be only partially effective in rhesus macaque monkeys. In this war, China is losing no opportunity to attack the United States. A commentary published by China Global Television Network says that selfish US politicians are seeking priority access to a coronavirus vaccine, hoping to win back a few votes after their prevention and control debacle, undermining global cooperation on COVID-19 in the process. But Beijing too is writing blank checks. China has a total of 5 possible vaccines for the coronavirus already in human trials. China sees the race as a matter of national pride and wants to position itself into the role of a rescuer, especially now when countries are demanding an international probe into the pandemic's origins. In April, Australian Prime Minister Scott Morrison asked for an independent probe into the deadly respiratory virus and the World Health Organization's handling of the crisis. In response, Chinese state media and leaders warned of trade retribution. On May 18th, China imposed an extraordinary tariff on Australian barley exports as apparent punishment for its push for a coronavirus inquiry. In an ideal world, scientific projects should not have political goals. Outbreaks such as SARS and MERS were contained through rapid multilateral action. However, a global united response to COVID-19 has been less effective. It's been more than 4.5 months since it was first detected, and the coronavirus continues to claim more lives, spreading viciously to new victims. Most experts say we are 12 to 18 months away from an approved COVID-19 vaccine, and even longer from having one available at scale. When a vaccine becomes available, countries will have to run the fastest and largest mass vaccination campaign in history. In India alone, 1 billion people will need vaccinations to reach the level believed to confer herd immunity for COVID-19, a colossal operational challenge. But it can be done. Costa Rica recently submitted a proposal to the World Health Organization for a global COVID-19 technology pool, a place where all the necessary intellectual property, such as patents, designs, trade secrets, and software, could be brought together. The pool would encourage governments to share innovations and make them available globally. We don't know if this proposal will actually go through, but support for it is growing. It's a question of survival, because the virus certainly recognizes no boundaries.